Hello sports fans, welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 10 college football rankings. So, going over last week's rankings and what those teams did in Week 9. Last week at number 10, I had BYU. They beat UCF 37-24. 9 was Tennessee, they were on a bye. 8, I had LSU, they lost to Texas A&M 38-23. 7 was Notre Dame, they demolished Navy 51-14. 6 was Penn State, they beat Wisconsin 28-13. 5, I had Texas. They barely beat Vanderbilt 27-24. 4 was Miami. They beat Florida State 36-14. 3 was Ohio State. They escaped with a 21-17 win over Nebraska. 2 was Georgia. They were on a bye. And 1 was Oregon, who destroyed Illinois, winning 38-9. But getting into this week's rankings and beginning things at number 10, I've got BYU. So BYU remains at number 10 after they easily beat UCF by a score of 37-24. The BYU offense was great. They put up 37 points and had 483 total yards of offense. Quarterback Jake Retzlaff was good with 3 total touchdowns, 2 passing and 1 rushing. And BYU also ran the football very effectively, rushing for 255 yards and 2 touchdowns. And 101 of those yards came from running back LJ Martin. Then the BYU defense had allowed just 10 points before the fourth quarter in garbage time in this game. But BYU, they've remained undefeated, and I've got them at number 10. 9th, I've got Texas A&M. So Texas A&M enters my top 10 for the first time this season after they upset LSU 38-23. And this was a good win for Texas A&M because they convincingly beat a pretty good LSU team. But Texas A&M used a big second half to get the win, as they were actually trailing 17-7 at halftime, but then in the second half they outscored LSU 31-6 to get the win. But Texas A&M ran the football very effectively, rushing for 242 yards and 5 touchdowns, 3 of which came from quarterback Marcel Reed. Now, speaking of the quarterback position, Texas A&M now has a quarterback controversy after starting quarterback Connor Wegman was benched after he completed just 6 of his 18 passes for 64 yards, and then backup Marcel Reed came in and he threw for 70 yards on just 2 pass attempts, plus he also provided the spark for the offense with what he can do as a runner and ran for 3 touchdowns. But it's going to be really interesting to see what Texas A&M ends up doing at the quarterback position moving forward. Then defensively for Texas A&M, they were good. They did not let LSU run the football at all, and they also forced Garrett Nussmeier into 3 second-half interceptions. But Texas A&M, after a good win over LSU, they're at number 9. 8th, I've got Tennessee. So Tennessee moves up a spot to number 8. They are on a bye. Next week they take on Kentucky. Coming in at number 7, I've got Notre Dame. So Notre Dame dominated Navy, winning 51-14, and this was a good win for Notre Dame because they destroyed a good Navy team that was previously ranked inside the top 25. Now, Notre Dame, they dominated this game. Offensively, they were great with 51 points. They were great through the air and on the ground. Quarterback Riley Leonard threw for 178 yards and 2 touchdowns, and also added 83 yards and a touchdown on the ground. And Notre Dame ran the football extremely effectively, rushing for 265 yards and 4 touchdowns. And the Notre Dame defense was also dominant. They allowed just 14 points and forced 6 turnovers. But Notre Dame, after a dominant win over Navy, I've got them at number 7. 6th, I've got Penn State. So Penn State remains at number 6 after they beat Wisconsin 28-13. But this was a really close game for Penn State, and it's a lot closer than the final score may suggest. As Wisconsin was up 10-7 at halftime before Penn State really pulled away in the fourth quarter, but this was a very close game for the majority of the game. Penn State quarterback Drew Allar also got hurt in the first half and did not return to the game, but Penn State was still fine without him, and backup Bo Pribula threw for 98 yards and a touchdown. Penn State also ran the football effectively, rushing for 173 yards and a touchdown. And then the defense was great for Penn State. They allowed just 13 points and under 300 total yards. Penn State, after a win over Wisconsin, they enter at number 6. 5th, I've got Texas. So Texas remains at number 5 after they escaped Vanderbilt with a 27-24 win. And Texas, they got back on track with the win, but this was a win that was way too close for comfort for Texas. But they were actually up 21-7 at the half before they let Vanderbilt back into the game, but they were able to hold on for the win. The offense had a good bounce-back game. Quinn Ewers threw for 288 yards and 3 touchdowns, although he did have 2 interceptions. And receiver DeAndre Moore was great with 6 catches for 97 yards and 2 scores. And then the Texas defense was pretty good, holding Vanderbilt under 300 yards and also forcing 3 turnovers. But Texas, after a close win over Vanderbilt, they remain at number 5. Fourth, I've got Miami. So Miami remains at number 4 after they easily beat Florida State 36-14. This was actually a down game for the Miami offense, scoring just 36 points, but they were still great in the win. Miami, they leaned on the run game, as running back Damian Martinez ran for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that was a part of a 230-yard and 3-score performance for Miami as a team. And then the Miami defense was also great, allowing just 14 points and 248 total yards. Now, you do have to factor in it was against Florida State, who's awful, but still a good win for Miami. They're still undefeated, and they're at number 4. Coming in at number 3, I've got Ohio State. So Ohio State remains at number 3 after a narrow 21-17 victory over Nebraska. This was not a very good performance for Ohio State, as their offense was awful with just 21 points, a season low, and they also had just 285 yards of offense. Quarterback Will Howard did throw 3 touchdowns, including the game winner with 6 minutes left, but Ohio State had no run game as they ran for just 64 yards, and the offense really struggled. Now, the Ohio State defense was good, allowing just 4.1 yards per play, and they came up with a turnover to seal the game. But Ohio State, they didn't play a great game, but they did get the win, and I've got them remaining at number 3. Number 2, I've got Georgia. They stay at number 2. They're on a bye. Next week, they face Florida. And coming in at number 1, I have Oregon. So Oregon remains at number 1 after they destroyed Illinois 38-9. And Oregon, they were in control of this game the entire way. They scored 35 of their 38 points in the first half, and they never trailed. Quarterback Dylan Gabriel was good once again, with 291 yards and 4 total touchdowns, 3 passing, 1 rushing. Receiver Tez Johnson also played a good game, with 102 yards and a touchdown, and Oregon ran the football effectively, rushing for 229 yards and 2 touchdowns. Plus, the Oregon defense was also great, allowing just 9 points and forcing a couple of turnovers. But Oregon, after a dominant win over Illinois, they remain undefeated and remain at number 1. And getting into my updated college football playoff predictions. So my number 1 seed is Miami at 13-0, winning the ACC. 2 seed is Georgia at 12-1, winning the SEC. 3 seed is a 12-1 Ohio State, winning the Big Ten. The 4 seed is Kansas State at 12-1, winning the Big 12. 5th seed, I've got Oregon at 12-1. My 6th seed, BYU, also at 12-1. 7th seed, I've got Notre Dame at 11-1. 8th seed, I've got Penn State at 11-1. 9th seed at Clemson at 11-1. My 10th seed is Boise State at 12-1, the Mountain West Conference champion. My 11th seed is Texas at 11-2, and my 12th seed is Texas A&M at 10-2. But those are my Week 10 college football rankings and my updated college football playoff predictions. Thank you guys for watching it. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn notifications so you don't miss any other upcoming videos. I do my best to put as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.